a few technical issues, but we are underway in this contest between Southport and the Bombers, and Lake grabs the footy, and it's going to be Jacob Heron swinging the handball forward, and it's Matt Shannon sending the Sharks inside 50, going all of the way. What a start to this contest for Southport. Matt Shannon from inside the centre square has kicked the first goal of this contest, Gemma Bastiani.
It was a quick one. Before the game even started, we were pointing out Braden Crosley moving into the forward line, playing as a key forward. He kicked 3 goals last week, but obviously it takes him away from the ruck. But clearly they've got something else going on, Joey. They
most certainly do. And Matt Shannon, who had 10 tackles last week, is now doing the flashy stuff and kicking the first goal of the morning. Vice captain of this side. Gets Southport on the board. So back into the centre square. I think we've worked out all the technical issues. Apologies for that if you're just tuning in on VFL.com.au. It's Riley Bowman up against Nick Bryan in the ruck. And Bryan won it down, but it's Boyd Woodcock just giving him the don't argue and shoveling the handball off to Jacob Heron. The kick goes up and down the chimney, but ends up at centre half forward. Foley's in the contest as the ball hits the deck. It's Southport going to work, and Shannon, the goal kick, is thrown into the ground by Dylan Shield. The umpire will ask for the ball. No, he'll give away the free kick. So Shield going short. And on the outer side of the ground is Jakey Moorhead into the side today. There's been a whistle. Campbell Gray-Gem, who started last week in the back pocket, playing forward earlier this contest. He thumps it inside 50 for the Bombers. Bryan stands in front of Bowman. And the tall man stands strong, and he goes for Caddy. Nate couldn't take the mark. He's doing his own roving work. The kick comes off the boot of Jared Eckersley towards the goal face, just across in front of the stick, hitting the behind post. We'll have this one thrown in. Now that we are settled, Gem, after that hectic and frenetic start, what are you seeing early on in this contest?
Yeah, I think the way that Essendon's forward line wants to work, they're not necessarily working for each other. So that Caddy dropped mark there, they're coming across into each other's space. So finding the way to actually create that space for each other rather than take it away from one another will be really important in getting genuine shots on goal, because we know that Essendon has struggled, especially falling away late in games.
Jaden Davey thumps it in the Caddy direction. It goes over his head, pushed aside by Matt McGuinness, who reels in the Sharon. It gets to Max Spencer in the back pocket. He's got some time. Take the ground in front of him. It was Banks Smith going up before acceptances, giving away the free kick. Lewis Hayes on the outer side of the ground will receiving free kick. He started this year really well, as Lewis Hayes.
He's your favourite, I think, from Essendon, based on last time we called this team.
Yes. We might get to Lewis Hayes throughout this contest. I think Boyd Woodcock's giving away the free kick here. The umpire is saying an unrealistic attempt, so young Nate Caddy will get a look at goal, and we saw him in round 1 too, Gem. Put his name in lights early on, and then he did so again last week against Footscray at Marvel Stadium. Had a couple of flashy moments. I think Blake Carosello would like to see just a little bit more consistency from this young man. Their top draft pick of last year puts it on its way. Oh, yes, Nate. That is sensational for the young man and for Bombers fans around the hangar. They'll enjoy seeing that, Gem.
Yeah, his confidence to go back from that distance as well. There's been a lot of talk, I think, the last couple of years about adjusting for the player on the mark rule and how you can take best advantage of that. And I think we're seeing more and more younger players coming through who have had a bit of time to test how it can work for them, really taking advantage of it, which is what Nate Caddy did just then. He didn't allow it to take him off his line or to kick in accurately as a result, which I think is really important, but that's something that these younger players will come through it and do more of. And Nate Caddy, surely sooner rather than later, we'll see him at the top level.
Yeah, I can imagine the Bomber fans, even though excited that they got the win last night against the Crows, are still itching to see their man in the number 30 making his senior debut. Could it come as early as Thursday, Jen, against Collingwood at the MCG?
Oh, bit of pain here. Potentially. You wonder if Sam Draper comes out as that extra ruck and they opt to play Caddy as the extra forward, tall forward. Peter Wright obviously is going to come back as well at some point. So there's a few different options, and it's just about how the chemistry works between them, isn't it?
It certainly is, and Peter Wright available now after serving his 4-week suspension. So He'll put his hand up for Anzac Day as Luau, wrapped up by Braden Crossley, the big man who started forward, locks him up about 40 out from the Southport goal.
Sam Wiedemann is obviously the one that has been pushed even further down the order as well in that respect. So here we're seeing him right at fullback. So is a change of position on the cards for Sam Wiedemann?
He spent a bit of time in the defence of the back half of last year, and he's down there to start this game. Here's Roberts, giving it to his ruckman in Bryan. The kick partially smothered by the goal kicker of Southport, Matt Shannon. Hearing from Sammy Zito, of course, the media manager of the Smithies VFL, he's not sure he's seen a faster goal than that one. Gemma Bastiani looked down to look at the technical issues, and Southport had one on the board.
Yeah, we didn't cover ourselves in glory to start this one. Let's put that out there, but we'll get on up from here.
Yeah, maybe if they post that one to the Instagram, just put the mute button on for that and maybe a bit of music over the top of it. Sammy, as Xavier O'Neill goes over the head with the hairball to Dylan Shield. Good to see him string a couple of games together now after an injury-prone pre-season. The Bombers thumping inside 50. It's a one-on-one for Campbell Gray. Got a fingertip to it. But the umpire said the mark going the way of Reece Clark of Southport. Sends it back from where it came. Aston on debut. Has to stand underneath the high ball. And he'll get himself a free kick. Brock Aston, this is his first game for Southport. At the interchange gates. He'll go in the Hall direction. Crossley stands behind and off hands over the line.
Joey, we should make mention of the late change for Southport side. Jay Lockhart is not out there today. Aiden Hall has come in for him. So number 31, Aiden Hall, he's the late inclusion. So if you're confused about where Jay Lockhart is, he's not there.
A hint of Darcy Moore about him as Aiden Hall with the headband and the flowing blonde locks, so can't quite miss him.
It's more De Koning, isn't it?
Okay, I was just going to go with the black and white jumper, but sure, as Matt Shannon's kick just to vacant land rolls over the line.
You always go with the black and white jumper.
I like jumpers that are black and white, Gem. It's real basic maths, that sort of stuff.
It's got nothing to do with maths.
Well, simple stuff. Anyway, this one about to be thrown in the forward pocket for Southport. A goal each early going to this contest. Dixon does the ruck work against Bryan. There is Wiedemann. Had the pocket picked. Aston is lurking. It's shoveled out towards Lake. Went low on Dylan Shield by having a think about it before crossing the arms, and another stoppage will follow. So in the forward pocket for Southport. Shields handball to no one in particular. Oh, a wild kick ended up with Luau. Didn't go far enough though. It's time to handball it back to Wiedemann. Just puts it out to space. And it's Moorhead reeling it in along the ground to Lewis Hayes. His kick partially smothered. We'll have this one thrown in.
Joey, there are two Rebel VFLW matches on the go at the moment. Williamstown is currently leading Western Bulldogs by 21 points, 46-25. They're into the final quarter, final couple of minutes actually. And Box Hill sitting top of the ladder, currently down by 1 point against North Melbourne. They're towards the end of their first quarter.
And that was your intriguing matchup to keep an eye on State of Play this week, that game.
The Williamstown Western Bulldogs one, yes, correct.
It was. So,
got players down everywhere at the moment.
Here's Aston, a spiral to the top of the goal square. It's an open square, and Hayes gets back to rush it through. Does the result that you're looking at right now, without having obviously sat down and watched the game, Gem, is that what you thought might have happened when you did pencil in an intriguing matchup?
Not at all. I thought it would be much closer than that. I think the Western Bulldogs have been a better side than that, and Williamstown maybe hasn't been as good a side as that. So it'd be interesting to see what played out in those, but we're here now at the Hangar. This one's been very physical early, have you noticed, Joey?
Yeah, I wonder if that's a Southport thing, to just stamp your authority and let the Bombers know that we're here. This is Williams, thumping an inside 50 for Crossley. Big Braden didn't take the mark. Will Horse stood in front of him.
Some strength from Paul there to hold on to that one.
It's a really good contested mark in his defensive 50. He's a big man, Braden Crossley, and he's having a good year, leading all comers in terms of most amount of hit-outs in the competition after the first month. Played in the Big V game a couple of weeks ago in Adelaide.
Best weekend of your life, Joey?
It was up there. I dare say September 30 last year rivals the Big V weekend.
Yeah, we heard all about it on the podcast too.
About to be thrown back in. Of course, spoke to Ben Crocker this week on State of Play. That award-winning podcast that you get every Tuesday morning at 7:30. Woodcock with a handball to space for Banks Smith to run onto. He got a boot to it, into the pocket. Crossley came out, presented, grabbed it as it bounced. This one's locked up in the pocket, but the Bombers are fighting hard. Nyko, who's the 23rd man today. You're going to ask the question here, Southport. The umpire's going to think about it. They'd come in from the boundary line and say, I will have it back. So Cam Nyko, Gem, the 23rd man, because one of our favourites, Oscar Smart, he's been elevated to the Young Guns team, which I think is playing tomorrow.
Yes, he was so important last week as well. He kicked, 4 goals. So he's one that I think the Bombers will really miss today. But Nyko will come in and play the role that has been asked of him, no doubt.
So Tom Thomas, wrapped up by Crossley. He has been, Gem, a shining light for the Bombers, Oscar Smart. We had a good look at him in round 1, his first game, and obviously done well enough to get a spot in that Young Guns team, but he's just provided that little bit of spark around their forward line. And I know they've got Jack Paris, I know they've got Jaden Davey, who's done a couple of nice things already, but Oscar Smart, he's still doing that in the third and fourth quarters when, and we might talk about this as the game unfolds, they sort of go into their shells a bit, the Bombers, in the second halves, and Smart at least keeps fighting for the Sharon. This one wobbles back inside 50. And it's Michael Manteed on the left foot into the pocket. It's a 3-on-1. Dixon's at the back doing the roving. He snaps into goal just across the face and through for a minor score. And Southport now move 2 points ahead of the Bombers early going of this contest, Jim.
Yeah, the Bombers have found it really, really tough in the latter parts of this quarter to move the ball past the halfway point of the ground. Southport's really squeezing them up into a really small pocket of space and then forcing them to kick to a contest, which either Southport is able to equal or win, and then send it back the other way. So it's just keeping that defence under massive amounts of pressure. So here's the kick to the contest. Southport wins, and it comes straight back. It's finding those shorter kicks, not just coming out of the defensive 50, but coming up the ground. The Bombers are spreading reasonably well, so potentially coming to the open side could be the way to do it. But we'll see how that continues to unfold. I'm sure Blake Carousel will have some words about that at quarter time.
So the kick from Riley Bowman was off hands of Dixon and Wiedemann. We'll have this one thrown in. Interestingly enough, Jem, did some numbers on the Bombers throughout the week. They haven't lost an inside 50 count this year, yet they haven't won a game, which is staggering in itself that they get enough looks at it.
Well, it suggests forward line dysfunction, doesn't it?
Either that or they're not quite getting the deeper entries, are they? So that it's easy enough for the defence to peel off from 40 out and switch and move the ground.
And to be fair, their accuracy hasn't been fantastic either. So kicking themselves out of games a little bit, which their VFLW side has been guilty of too. So as I said earlier, Essendon probably need to start looking to the open side. It's exactly what Southport has done here to move past that press of players existing through the middle of the ground. And now they're in their front half, and they can be considered about the way they go inside 50. Essendon hasn't really achieved that quite yet.
So it's Ryan Banks-Smith. It is a stacked 50 arc. Good luck marking that or finding any space to. And Dixon has done just that. As Gemma Bastiani said, they spread the ground. That ball didn't hit the ground once it was on the outer side halfback flank. It's 4 kicks to horseshoe the ground, and now it's Hugh Dixon, who was a great shot at goal.
It's also about chemistry with your team, knowing to spread, knowing that you're going to have options out there to kick to and continue to move to when you want to move the ball quickly.
So Hugh Dixon in the number 29. A casual, steady approach to goal. This for their second. Early going. Hits the stick. He's a great marker of the football, is Hugh Dixon, Gem. Again, like Braden Crossley, he was one of the 5 Sharks who were in the Big V team, and you see, as soon as he takes 1 or 2, the confidence goes sky high, and he almost starts just living within the play.
Well, that one in particular was, you were saying it's a stacked 50, good luck marking it going in, but that little bit of a space opened up. His teammates actually knew how to draw their opposition away from it, and he knew to come up through that channel. So I think the chemistry of this Southport team is what has them controlling this one. But this is a different look for Essendon coming through the middle. A little bit scrappier, ground level, have to run and carry rather than kick long. This could be their chance.
It's Tom Thomas thumping it inside 50. Gray's there. from the back. He couldn't take the mark as it hits the ground. It's Caddy going to work alongside Spencer. Off the ground, Boyd Woodcock just went over the head, more in hope than anything, and Sexton was wrapped up by Jaden Davey. He got the support of Foley, and the Bombers are able to lock it up. So a little bit of chaos footy clearly working in the Bombers' favour on that passage of play. When it gets out into space and Southport able to control it in the air, they look much more dangerous, don't they, Jim?
Yeah, it's the comparison of that run and carry handball game versus that marking game, and I think the Bombers do possess that speed. So these long, high kicks, they're not really winning it in the air, but once it's on the deck, they look really dangerous.
The kick from Jepson into the centre circle has been intercepted by Luau. Here's a chance for the Bombers. Thought about going wide, now deciding to go corridor is Luau. Now he's in three minds as to where to go, and he's run too far. Well, that's a stiff call.
So Nate Caddy there had three separate leads, and Luau just took too long to acknowledge that he was leading in space. And Caddy had freedom from his direct opposition, had the opportunity to, take a mark on the lead if he was hit up. So I think the chemistry thing is what we're lacking from Essendon right now.
That's a brilliant mark by Will Hoare, who's now taken a couple of defensive marks. McKay almost reeled it in with the one juke. He's got the support out the back of Nyko, who then gave it to McKay. He's going backwards to Luau, who may have run himself out into trouble, but Wiedemann was there for the handball receive. Now to Caddy, who presents, was fisted away from him but brought down in the air. So Nate will get a free kick. He'll give the handball quickly to his captain in Xavier O'Neill. To centre half forward he goes. Vicentini in a 3-on-1. Brought the ball to ground. Roberts off his hands. Tom Thomas. Went back to O'Neill. Now to Foley. And inside 50. It's a well-weighted ball for Davey. Just went over his head, but the ball hits the deck. This is where the speedster can go to work. Or he's thrown into the ground by Jacob Heron. No free kick pay. Sexton put his head over it. He was wrapped up. The umpire's going to hover, think, and give the free kick to Essendon in the end.
I can't help but think about last night, Joey, with that one.
Oh, you're going to bring it up, are you? You're lucky Essendon won, and they didn't give away.
I'm lucky.
Well, we're on an Essendon game here, and there are a lot of fans here who are very happy that they won last night, because if they hadn't, and they heard you bring up last night, they'd come up here and riot.
No, but that was fantastic forward pressure from the Bombers there. That they've been able to hold it in their front half a little bit the last couple of minutes. They need the reward here.
So it's Campbell Gray approaching the goal. We've already seen Caddy have one shot. This one's going to go across the face of goal. Caddy has a big fly. He couldn't reel it in, though. And now it's camped at the top of the goal square. He's got some springs, doesn't he, Nate Caddy?
He does, and I love that he has the confidence to just leap at the footy like that.
Could take Mark of the Year one day, going off stuff like that. Jackson Haitley was met by Lake. The kick to Vicentini to Shear. Wants his left foot. Handball missed Paris. Davey strong. Couldn't bring his opponent down, and Zach Foot just kicks the spiral into the waiting arms of Wiedemann, who will go to Foley. So as they spread the ground, the Bombers, they've got the chance. Thumping kick inside 50, again in the Caddy direction. Nate couldn't take this one though. Brought to ground was Nyko. The umpire asks for it again. Not quite sure about the Zach Foot kick, but just get it out of there as quick as you can.
It was a panicked, let's get some clear air kick. But the Southport defence has held up incredibly well to this press.
Heron to Sexton, to Foot, and back to Heron, the speedster, through the centre of the ground. He has a bounce. It's an open forward 50 arc for Keegan Gray to work into. Hayes got a hand to it. He's going back after it with Keegan and seeing it over the boundary line in the end. Did well, Lewis Hayes.
It was brilliant from Lewis Hayes. By all rights, Gray was out the back there. The kick just needs to go over the top, but Hayes was able to just get that hand in, disrupt it, not let the speed get to him. Impressive.
It's a quick turn of foot too from Jacob Heron through the centre of the ground. Thrown back in. Here's Boyd Woodcock. Oh, class reigns supreme when Boyd's around the footy. Brilliant goal, and then he gets up and lets his opponent know all about it. He doesn't need much room, does Boyd Woodcock. I've told you that before, Gemma Bastiani.
No, well, I was about to say, he's your favourite player in this league, isn't he?
He's up there. He's up there.
I don't think I've heard you talk more about a player than you have about Boyd Woodcock.
Oh, Louis Pinnock's high.
Yeah, to be fair.
Louis high.
But that's because you know him.
Personal connection with Louis.
When you thought that Boyd wasn't playing today, you were devastated.
Very
He was
upset.
out there.
I'm actually, speaking of players who I'm upset that aren't playing, Jacob Dawson.
Yes.
He's not playing in this game. He has had a terrific start to the year. He might have just been a touch sore after the Big V game and then playing a game last week. But initially there was fears that Boyd might have also been a touch sore leading into this game. But thankfully he's not, and he's doing stuff like that, Jem, out in the park, and it's great to see.
Well, and he's going head-to-head with Jackson Haitley in the middle there, who has been Essendon's absolute powerhouse. Last week, get this, Haitley had 3 goals, 30 disposals, 8 tackles, 8 clearances, and 8 inside 50s.
You know the best part?
What's
I
that?
saw it all at Marvel Stadium on Friday. He's about to get it again, but Dylan Shield opts to go for Paris. Swings it to Archie Roberts. They're inside 50 here, the Bombers. They'll set it up to the top of the square. Will Ricky Monty be fisted away from Vicentini? Monty will have a second go. He'll give the handball to Davey. We know what he's like in the pocket. Here is Haitley to the top of the square. An under kick in the end. What a great option. Reece Clark, easy pickings for him to take the mark. Go out into the back pocket. And now it's time for Southport to stop and prop and wait for options up the ground for Jackson Edwards. Picks out Zach Foote.
Former Swan, Zach Foote.
Goes to Crossley. You would have enjoyed him in the red and white, Jem.
To be fair, he didn't play a whole lot of footy.
Maybe he's a chance to get back in there. I know he's going to play a bit more midfield minutes today without Jacob Dawson in the side. So,
well, the mid-season draft is obviously what's coming up pretty soon, so hence the Young Guns game as well. So everyone that wants to be drafted or would hope to be drafted in the mid-season draft will be trying to play their best footy right now. I mean, you always try to play your best footy, but you add a little bit extra coming up to these drafts, don't you?
And I guess, absolutely, as Eckersley goes inside 50, he'll set it up towards Roberts and Gray. Bloke's got springs in his feet as well. Jumping jack in the box down in the goal square for Essendon. Roberts locked up by Hall. I guess also, Jem, we're seeing games like the Young Guns, but having the mid-season draft, recruiters are more prone to just looking outside the box more in the last few years than simply just the AFL draft to find these players. And Smithy's VFL, and as the shot at goal off the boot, inside outer, is a minor score from Alex Molan. Even in the Rebel VFLW, these pathways just opening up more and more opportunities for players who otherwise maybe thought, well, their chances are done once they turn 19 and 20 years old.
Yeah, so old at 20.
I wish.
And I think recruiters are probably spending more time at State League games like the VFL, VFLW, as well as the Waffle, the Sandful, the Quaffle. So there's lots of different opportunities, and we're seeing probably more so in the VFLW and women's footy than maybe in men's, but players moving to make sure they're in front of recruiters. So Jamie Henry is a good example of that. She was overlooked in the draft last year, comes from WA, and
the snap at goal came from Haitley. Sorry to cut you off there, Jen.
That's fine.
Jackson missing on this occasion.
So overlooked in the draft last year, was playing in the Waffle and decided to come over, play in the VFLW this year to kind of be in front of more clubs for that opportunity. I think State League footy is so important. Not just as a pathway though. It's important to players who are really happy to be a VFL or VFLW player and just play really good footy at this level and enjoy themselves.
Brilliant smother from Lewis Hayes, because Southport were off to the races, and now it's pinging straight back. Ricky Monty gives it off to Jaden Davey and then back to Monty. Kick and a half out from goal. He'll give to Luau, and just too hot for Luau to get that handball back in. And Hall stands up in the tackle. He may have run out of room. He has. So takes a divot out of the ground too. The Hangar on the outer side. This one will be thrown back in. Nearing quarter time. It is 2-3-15 to 1-2-8 in favour of Southport.
Dylan Shield is the leading disposal winner, Joey, with 9 alongside Xavier O'Neill. So Shield getting right amongst it.
And it's going to be a free kick here to Cam Nyko. Just put his head over the football and was bumped into.
It's a great name.
Cam Nyko. It's up there with Tom Toma. They've got a couple in this team. Ricky Monty also cracking name as Vicentini flies. He couldn't take the mark. Brian was at the back. He missed it altogether. Hately sets it up for Molan. Was he intercepted in the air? The umpire said no. Shield slipping over was Tom Toma. Edwards, handball, strong tackle on Williams. Thrown into the ground by Molan and Roberts. The umpire will ask for it. 45 out from goal. Here's Shield again on the right foot. Everything just opened up in front of him. Vicentini was being held onto at the top of the goal square against Reece Clark. And Vigo will take the free kick and he'll go home and kick the goal.
This is essentially a gift for Essendon, who have struggled so much to get that clear shot on goal inside their 50. That Southport defence has been so staunch, they'll be frustrated that they've given this one away.
So Vicentini just kicked a couple of goals so far in the opening month of the season. He's now got 3, and the Bombers cut back to a 1-point ball game at the 26-minute mark of this first term. 2-2-14 to 2-3-15. There are a couple of other disposal getters on that list, Jem, that are standing out for you early.
Yeah, so Shield is up to 11, Xavier O'Neill the 9. Boyd Woodcock, your man, has 8, as well as Lewis Hayes as that key defender. So I don't know how much you want your key defender to be amongst your main disposal winners, but he's been playing very, very good footy.
Well, just on Lewis Hayes, we are seeing, with the way the Bombers are playing early in this game, a couple of those disposals are at the wing, are at half, like they're quite high up the ground, and the first 10 minutes it was camped right down at their end of the ground. So he's been around the play. I'll cop the disposal numbers that he's been getting. Jem, I'll accept that.
No, he's been fantastic down there.
Just wonder when his opportunity will come for the Bombers in the senior side. Jackson Hately will get the clearance after receiving the handball from Tom Toma. Ricky Monty in a one-on-one right beneath us. He'll keep the Sharon in really well to Nyko. Chisels it to half forward. Molan. It was a grass cutter, but he took it in his hands at half forward. Back to Nyko on the left to the top of the square. Gray from the back didn't take the mark. There's a couple of Bombers lurking. Vicentini. Oh, he's missed the handball altogether. Southport players are down behind the play, and Jepson's happy to guide it over the line.
Would you call that a comedy of errors, Joey?
Well, missing the handball is one of those, I guess, Jem. But the kicks from Cam Nyko, grass cutters, were absolutely sensational.
Looks like Nick Williams from Southport just got a knee right in the ribs, so he's trying to get his breath back, but he seems like he'll be okay.
So out of the side of the ground, there's been a whistle. Do the Bombers take the advantage? I think the umpire's going to bring it back. They can't take advantage because it's not going their way. It's for Banks Smith on the half-back flank. To the late inclusion. Hall streams down the outer side of the hangar for Bowman. Too big on Foley, takes the mark. So he's got Crossley in a one-on-one if he wants. He'll wait for some other cavalry to arrive. Then he'll set this one up for Big Braden. Brought it down to the front of the contest. Lake was smashed into by Luau and Hoare, and holding the ball.
Joey, last night I was listening, not last night, Thursday night, I was listening to the ABC's call of St Kilda against the Western Bulldogs. And Cameron Ling made a note of St Kilda's style of play and called it labour intensive. Getting so many players back to help in defence and then trying to slingshot the footy back out and using their run. Feels like that's what Essendon are trying to do. We saw how it worked for St Kilda on Thursday night. Essendon, they're getting those looks on goal, but they're not taking advantage of them. So I worry that, as we've talked about a little bit, is that they drop away in second halves. Is that a contributing factor, do you think?
Potentially. I think that, as well as the fact that this side hasn't spent a lot of time together playing as a unit over the last 2 and 3 years. To understand each other's intricacies of the game. They're learning under new coach Blake Caracella this year. But I dare say there'd be some taxing legs on the body when they're constantly repelling as that siren goes for quarter time. We might talk about that a bit more in the second term. Southport go in the first break, 1-point leaders.
Press when they're up and about is impressive. but Essendon probably didn't expect their ability to bounce back the way that they did. We've seen them in the past have really strong first halves, not necessarily make the most of it on the scoreboard, and then be overrun. So that's the big challenge for Essendon now, is actually take advantage of the control they do have and make sure they put up enough of a fight so even if they do fall away, it's still a big hill to climb.
Brilliant tackle from Lake to bring down Paris. Jepson out to Edwards, out of sight of the ground to start the second term, and Bowman, who started both quarters in the ruck. Swings the handball and then gets the old 1-2 going. Out of sight of the ground for Riley Bowman. Foot is behind Foley. He fisted it to ground and then roved his own share. And Shields' handball was a wild one. Edwards went back to Jepson. And Matt Shannon, who's done this once already from the centre square. This time he's just thumping it to vacant land, and it's the two captains, O'Neill and Woodcock, in a one-on-one. O'Neill wins the day by paddling it to Roberts and giving it to Xavier O'Neill. Keeps on running. Brings Foley into the game by handballing it to him. And chisels it along the ground in the centre square for Haitley, who was met by Edwards but pushed straight in the back. And so Jackson Haitley was probably the Bombers' best.
Probably.
Last week.
Definitely.
Luau. Okay, thank you, Gemma. And Gemma Bastiani, who was covering the game last week from the media centre. There's Jaden Davey taking the mark. Were you just tuning in at home, Gem, watching Friday night, Footscray and Essendon?
I was just listening to your call, Joey.
It was a great call.
You were rocking your Big V outfit, weren't you?
Oh, I had the T-shirt on, yes, and I've brought the shorts today. Here's Jaden Davey from the paint of 50 to give the Bombers the dream start to the second term. It's near side and missing. One behind.
Yeah, it's those opportunities. We're seeing Essendon probably get quite a few from that distance.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting those set shots, and you mentioned earlier, Joey, that the fact that they tend to win the inside 50 count, but are they deep entries? And we really haven't seen any really genuine deep entries from Essendon today.
Well, here's a chance for one of them, or at least to lock it in and keep it there. Vicentini to Davey. That's more like it from Jaden. He prefers those over the set shots, and that's exactly why he sneaks through a Smithy snag, giving him his first of the day, and the Bombers have their third.
Joey, a few weeks ago you called Essendon's first goal of the season?
Well, we were here for it, so yes, and it was Jaden Davey.
And it was Jaden Davey. They seem to have so much more time with the footy, Southport. They just adapt to that pressure really well, but it just wasn't the right kick, was it? To a 2-on-1. We love Braden Crosley, but he's not the athlete that Sam Wiedemann is, who can come across when he's out, the intercept-free defender to come through and punch that ball away. So it just wasn't the right kick. They needed to keep going around that 50.
Here's Dixon doing the roving. Wiedemann picks his pocket, gives it to Luau. And the Bombers clear from their defensive 50, and Campbell Gray takes it on the chest. Now it's a race back to goal, and Jaden Davies there. The kick's got to be good, or it's got to come to ground, because Davies lurking. The speedster just went through his legs. He missed his opportunity. And it's the Sharks clearing through Reece Clark. Was fisted away from Woodcock. Caddy back to Nyko. Got McKay. Missed him just. But Solomon's got time to reel it back in. Tried to break the tackle. Tom Thomas put his head over it. Threw his body in. Woodcock wins it back. Heron to Dixon. And he just puts it to space. And on the stretch, Gray reels it in. Goes back to Hall. Genuine screaming going on to get the ball into the hands of Crossley. Didn't take it. Haitley, Eckersley, Bristle Bryan gets it to Paris. They're trying to put some speed on the ball.
There are some vocal cords being absolutely shredded downstairs.
They're doing their best, and O'Neill, met by Banks Smith, put the ball on the ground, and Foley. Banks Smith had a second go, wins back the ball to foot. Aston, there's been a whistle. A long way off the ball, in fact. All the way at centre-half forward for the Bombers. As Zach Foote was charging into goal, it's got to go 150 metres to the other end of the ground. I'm not sure what that free kick's for.
Well, it's Nate Caddy that's on the receiving end of it, and he and a few of the Southport players have been unhappy with each other after a few contests. So it could be some lingering tension from some earlier interactions.
So Matt McGuinness is standing the mark, and he's still having chats to the umpire. In fact, it's not going to be Nate Caddy after all that. It's going to be Ricky Monty. He's going to earn the free kick.
Nick Bryan, by the way, is coming off the ground finally after that hit earlier.
So Ricky Monty hasn't kicked a goal yet in Bombers colours this year, and he still hasn't with that minus score. It's Essendon so far, Jem, who've done all the scoring in this second term.
Yeah, and if you're purely looking at the stats, you'd think that Essendon is absolutely dominating this game. They're up 151 to 108 disposals for the game. They've won 14 free kicks to 5. They've won 15 clearances to 9. 33 marks to 23. But yeah, that dysfunctional forward half is just not quite allowing them to capitalise.
And it's an entry like that that ends up missing Vicentini from the O'Neill kick. But it is going to be a throw-in. So we'll see if they can get a goal from this stoppage. And Bryan straight back on the ground. He'll do the ruck work against Bowman. Kick the only goal so far of this second term. Bowman paddled it in the end towards the safety of the behind line and a rush behind.
Is it a bit of a lack of composure as well? Panic a little bit, so they're not necessarily using it very well, or do you think it's all down to Southport's pressure?
Well, Foley runs in a goal and he misses now. So the radar just slightly off. I think there's just a little bit of, here's an opportunity that we maybe didn't expect to have. And just a little composure. They have got some time to steady and use the footy better than they have been inside 50. Here's Willis. The old 1-2 gets it to Lake. Banks Smith. Kick and a half out from goal. We'll just set this one up for Foote to jump over the top of Foley. Didn't take the mark. Thomas, the clearing kick. Mark not taken. As it hits the ground, it's Woodcock getting it to Mantee. Caddy tried to wrap him up. Willis was met head on by Tex Wanganeen and has earned himself the free kick. And again, a couple of the Sharks go over to Nate Caddy. He's fully invested in this game, is Nate Caddy.
Very much so. He's invested in the game and he's invested in the chats that are happening around it as well.
So Willis That stacked forward 50 arc. Hayes, easy pickings for the young man. Composure as he goes back to Sam Wiedemann. Wants to take the corridor. Haitley on the stretch. Got to him. Foley to Moorhead. It's a good build-up from the Bombers. Vicentini, though, was just pushed off it in the end. Jepson is going to be quite comfortable in seeing it over the line with Campbell Gray.
This quarter, it's very much felt like the game has been more on Essendon's terms for sure, and I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that they're not just trying to kick long to a contest down the line all the time anymore. They're actually picking it out. So Sam Wiedemann comes through trying to go corridor, and then Haitley knows that he's got runners on the outside, gets it out to them, and all of a sudden they're inside 50. It's a completely different look at how Essendon's transitioning the footy.
Here's Heron trying to cut a swathe through them. His handball was intercepted by Hayes, who was met by Keegan Gray.
But again, Southport's not getting the ball out very easily anymore. They're actually having to work really hard for it, stoppage after stoppage.
So thrown back up. Haitley just missed Thomas. Aston came through. Whistle on play. It's a free kick to Southport. Might be after Aston got rid of the ball. So he's on debut with Brock Aston. His first look at it today. Jepson's short one to Bowman. There's a bit of space in front of Dixon. Oh, Tom Thomas did well to cut that off, but he didn't reel in the footy, which meant Zach Foote could go to work. He's still there, his foot. Did he get Thomas high? They're going to ask about it. The umpire's going to say, I'll have it.
The umpire might have been on the wrong side of that one because it was definitely high.
All right, that's the voice of Gemma Bastiani.
Throw me under the bus there, Joey.
Certainly not my voice saying that. Foot smashed into Thomas. Now another whistle. Off the ball, I think it might be Lewis Hayes' free kick. In fact, it's going to be Tom Thomas. Hayes was just thrown into the ground without the Sherrod.
I think Southport just need to tighten up on those little things. They've given away a few like that now, and sure, it doesn't seem dangerous when it's in your defensive half, but if it becomes a real theme of how they're playing, and obviously Nate Caddy is tapping into it a little bit.
So Molan to Campbell Gray. Williams sees it go over the line with him. So it's a different role for Campbell Gray today. He played in the back line last week for the Bombers. He's been moved forward today by Blake Caracella.
The sun's come out here, Joey. It's very bright.
Almost a picture-perfect day for footy.
You wearing your sunscreen?
Here at the Hangar. Well, thankfully the European skin don't tend to need the sunscreen on days like today. More just sort of December to February operation is sunscreen. But
there's always a UV danger, Joey.
Well, it is Melbourne too, Jem, so give it 5 minutes. We'll probably be covered in rain soon.
Our cam operator, Ari, is finding that very amusing.
So thrown back in. Doing a great job is Ari. Early going of this contest. Fixed up those technical issues early. The one-man show that he is. He almost said he could carry us, Jem. And he will be for the rest of the afternoon. Here's Dylan Shield. Sweeps it to Monty. Gets it back. Another one to Nyko, who's on that left foot. It's a lethal left foot. It's going a long, long way, but the accuracy is not there. But it covered the journey very well.
It easily covered the journey, but it was always offline.
And it's Williams for Southport. The intercept was there from Archie Roberts, and we'll have it thrown in. So I like this style from Essendon, Gem, is, as you said, they're not letting this footy out of their forward 50 arc easily.
No, and they're very conscious of kick-ins or kicks like that, free kicks like that, to just, you know, get a hand in. They don't have to win the footy, but just stop it from coming straight out.
Aston, just a haphazard kick. Luau and Lake, it bounced away from both players. Sweeping handball towards Mickey Manteet, who's got Zach Foote screaming for it, but he's had it stolen by Nyko. Will he get it back from Tom Thomas, who's trying to dance, step his way through, but in the end, maybe tried to do too much. Out of sight of the ground, it's going to be Southport reeling it in with Maxi Pescott. While slipping over at the crucial moment, but he's got support from Jepson. Davey also slipped over just off camera. Banks Smith. Hasn't been a lot of rain, but there's a bit of slipping over going on here at the Hangar at the moment. Aston.
Yeah, it's been an on and off wet few days, so no doubt that's what's resulting in that on the surface of the Hangar here. But you mentioned it was a haphazard kick coming out of defence from Southport. That's all because of the pressure that Essendon has brought this quarter.
So going to be a free kick to the Bombers.
There's another off-the-ball free that Southport's given away, though.
And that was Will Hall being put on his backside off the ball.
They're worst worst enemy right now, Southport.
We go back to Lewis Hayes. Another one to Shield. I'll get his numbers in a moment, Jem, on Dylan Shield. As Roberts wants the preferred left foot of his. Slip through the fingertips of Hall, which opens the door for the Sharks. Brilliant handball from Woodcock to Lake. The advantage is going to be paid. And so Banks Smith can work his way into an open forward 50 arc. And unfortunately, though, the kick is no good. Easy for Wiedemann to take and get to Eckersley.
Yeah, direct to the opposition. But all of that, I think, has really come from that increased Bombers pressure. Southport is panicked when they're trying to use the footy now. That wasn't the case in the first quarter.
Well, they're going to have another go at it here. Matt Shannon, the lethal left foot to the open goal square. Dixon going back. That's a much better, well-weighted kick. Dixon runs around quickly, plants the right foot and kicks the goal off the left. He kicks his first. They've got their third. And we've got a close one at the Hangar on this Saturday afternoon.
That was a fantastic kick inside 50, right as I was calling them panicked and poor ball users. But again, all you need is one classy player to take it upon themselves and actually acknowledge where the advantage would be for his teammate. So important in that respect, because too often we've seen those Southport kicks inside that just go directly to the advantage of the defenders. That one there was over the back, knowing that Dixon was, that was his space that he was owning, knowing that he had the connection with him to actually pick that and acknowledge that that's where the ball was going as well. Just so smart, and connection. Connection is so important.
Very much so. So Southport cut back to a 3-point margin at the 18-minute mark. The Bombers have kicked 1 goal 4 in this term. They've had their opportunities, there's no question about that. It goes down the other end, and we talked about this last week, Jem, as Woodcock tried to get away from Shield. He gave to Crossley and thumping it inside 50. Dixon's going to sit underneath the high ball. Alongside Wiedemann, Lake was there. Wiedemann's handball to Foley. Ended up with Dixon. He only needs a look at him, Big Huey. Sam was strong in locking him up. Going to have another go, though. Hall is lurking. There's been a whistle. And it might be a Southport free kick. It is to Keegan Gray. And so Keegan will take the free kick and look for his first goal in Southport colours. Made his Southport debut last week. 46 games with Werribee, including last year's grand final. So deflating for the Bombers, who have had all the attack. To have 1 goal 4, it goes down the other end. Dixon kicks a goal 60 seconds ago, and now they're watching Keegan Gray spray it and miss altogether. But yeah, I mean, the Hugh Dixon goal is the one I wanted to get back to, rather than that sort of goal, was how deflating it is that after 15, 16 minutes of being camped at their end of the ground for 1 goal 4 return, one transition, and it's already back to under a goal.
This is what we said right at the top of the quarter, though, was when Essendon has control, they need to capitalise on the scoreboard, because we know that they probably will fall away a little bit. So that is so important. When it's living in your front half, you need to be scoring. And they just haven't been able to do that. Sure, Jaden Davey looked amazing in that one passage of play, but other than that, where is the spark coming from? If they look dangerous at ground level, do they have enough representation at ground level to actually make the most of that?
This is O'Neill, down the line, Molan. Shortest man in the pack, but he brought it to ground. Sexton. Monty went off the ground. Here's a chance for the Bombers, although it just slipped through the fingertips of Tex Wanganeen, which allowed the Sharks to win back the football. And Willis will try and chisel it to his ruckman. He had to be perfect, and he wasn't. So there's a chance for the Bombers at the interchange gates to take the free kick. Out of bounds on the full. And so Cam Nyko will take it. He's got Haley in short. Stepped inside the field of play, so called to play on now. Caddy from the back. Didn't take the mark. Ball hits the ground. Here's Davey. He likes to go to work around here, as does Tex Wanganeen, and was thrown over the line by Reece Clark.
That's the thing, though. Caddy is doing his job. He might not be marking everything, but he's bringing the ball to ground inside 50. It's the guys at his feet that need to be a little bit more impactful, I think. A little bit cleaner with that first touch of the footy.
Certainly had an impressive month to start his AFL, VFL career, Nate Caddy. He's been competing from the word go when we saw him against the Brisbane Lions in that first game. And last week, I think he might have kicked a couple of goals as well and had a very similar game than the first half we're seeing today.
Yeah, and that's all you... Sure, you want bags of goals from your key forwards, definitely, but you also, as a young player in a position that takes time to build into and that is very reliant on teammates to actually get involved in the game, he is doing exactly what they need of him right now.
He most certainly is. That kick didn't go far enough. O'Neill sits underneath the Willis kick. Heron tried to break the tackle. Moorhead, he's got McKay. Sweeps another one to Wanganeen. From the pocket, Tex, he broke a tackle, then just handballed it. More volleyball spike than anything. Paris, Haitley, boot to ball, wobbles to the top of the goal square. Can O'Neill make this one fortuitous? He can. Well, it was a touch rushed, but every handball picked out a red and black jumper. And then the captain finished the job. It might have been ugly, Jem, but it was effective.
It was fantastic the way that they were able to work their way through. So where we were saying that Southport looked panicked, they're not withstanding the pressure, all that sort of stuff. Essendon have worked into the game. They've adapted to how much time they do have, not rushing themselves when they actually aren't under as much pressure as they think, and having the representation, the width of the 50 meant that they continuously had someone to go to until someone was willing to take that kick.
And the captain of the Bombers, 14 disposals, 3 marks, the clearances, now has a goal next to his name. It's a pretty good performance so far. I see Dylan Shields sits top of all comers when it comes to disposals. Jackson Haitley, as per usual, lurking around there as well. Haven't quite been as effective as they have been in the first couple of rounds. Vicentini almost takes a specky on Crossley as he brings it down to those 3 players I mentioned, Shield, O'Neill and Haitley. And a whistle, free kick for the Bombers.
He had a lifetime in the air there.
Put that one on a poster. You can claim that one. Foley gets the handball from Shield. Inside 50. Is there a chance for 2 in a row? Out the back was Brian. Free kick to the Bombers. And free kick to Caddy. Well, don't give it away now, boys. They have. Oh, Jade and Davey. They will be ropeable. A prime opportunity for Nate Caddy to kick his second. And the forwards of Essendon have turned this one back over. And Southport, ever so slightly, can release some of the pressure. Although Archie Roberts was good in corralling Mantee. He gave it to Heron. Sweeps the handball to Sexton. Steps around Davey. Tries to step around Roberts. Up the line he goes for Dixon. Hayes lurking. On his lonesome. Steps around Huey Dixon. Broke the tackle. Luau, though, in trouble. In trouble. Matt Shannon was strong. Dangerous tackle, the umpire said. So a second chance for Luau.
And there's a bit of feeling here now as well as a result.
So Luau, halfback flank. They take the free kick. Go backwards to Hoare. Another off the ball free kick. There is plenty happening in this game, Jem.
We just don't know where to look because the free kicks are happening right across the field.
Well, it's Nate Caddy and Matt McGuinness. The two of them have got their own little sideshow going on. Tex Wanganeen will take the free kick and he'll go in the direction of Caddy. It's a brilliant kick. Nate will present, or at least compete. He made Jepson earn it. He's in everything at the moment. He's Caddy. Heron has to go over his mark for Haitley. Campbell Lake takes it. They get the free kick. Go backwards. Stop and prop with McGuinness. To Boyd Woodcock. And now they're at half forward. The kick no good though. Nick Bryant intercepts and takes the mark. Alex Molan. So a bit of possession footy from the Bombers. Haitley, some space. Send it inside 50, Vicentini. Fisted away though from Matt McGuinness.
I don't like that kick from Haitley. He had a lot more time to actually consider what was ahead of him and actually give it to a teammate's advantage rather than just putting it on top of their heads.
Well, it's at the right end of the ground though for the Bombers. We're nearing half-time. A spot that's very familiar for Essendon in the first 3 weeks. And within a goal of their opponents at each of the main breaks. It's the second halves that have been the real issue, particularly the third term. They've been outscored by over 100 points as Haitley, his handball missed his teammate. Tom Thomas will have a crack at it. Foley from the paint of 50. Caddy, oh man, in front. Nate was super. As two Southport Sharks blokes smashed into one another in Sexton and McGuinness.
Now, no one needs to turn this over. No one needs to get into anyone.
It'll take a brilliant kick from pick number 10. A right foot snap. It's going across the face and sneaking in for a minus score.
Dylan Shield up to the 20 disposals as he takes a break on the bench. We should know that 17 of those have been handballs, 5 clearances. Jackson Haitley's had the 18 disposals and O'Neill has had the 15. So the Bombers leading the way in terms of winning the footy.
Joyce, thumping kick of the football. Hall wrapped up. And the umpire will ask for it again. O'Neill left the footy behind. Bowman off the side of the boot. It'll bounce back into play. Will Hall tried to break through the tackle. Maxi Peskin. His handball ends up going over the line. So we are almost at half-time. 4:8:32, 3:4:22. 28 minutes have elapsed in this second term. The Bombers have kicked 2 goals. 2 goals, 5 in fact. Southport just the one straight. Off the boot of Hugh Dixon. Lake, Eckersley, the 2 Gold Coast Premiership teammates going toe-to-toe. Aston, brilliant handball to foot. Terrific run-down tackle from Paris. Super. A couple of speedsters on show. And Paris wins the day. Back to Hayes. He went further back to Moorfield. To half forward. Through the fingertips of Ricky Monty. Through the fingertips of Molan. Opens the door for Sexton. Southport go inside 50. Foot. Met by Dixon. One way, the other. Dixon wants his left foot. He'll get to it now. He'll chisel it into the pocket. And Edwards will take the mark. Will he go back and have the shot? He's called to play on. He'll set it up to the top of the square. And it's just bounced off the chest there of Maxi Peskin. Wiedemann met by Crossley. He's got support of McKay. The dump kick, not a great one. Dixon's got some space. Will he get on the left foot? He'll go on the right and he'll set it up to really nothing. And Tom Thomer in the end, calling his troops to just slow it down, lads. There's no need to panic.
It was like everything was moving in slow motion there and everyone was a bit panicked. When really the pressure wasn't bearing down. There was a little bit more time to move through, but...
So Thomas, Moorhead, Molan, with the handball, not a great one for Thomas, met by Peskin. Free kick. Siren. Half-time. Entertaining first half of footy, Gem, it must be said. 4:8:32, the Bombers. 3:4:22. We're underway in this second half. Nick Bryan going up against Riley Bowman. The umpire puts it down in the centre. We're underway in the third term. Joe Pignataro alongside Gemma Bastiani as Xavier O'Neill dumps it to centre half forward. Caddy, strong. Picked it up and went to Roberts, who chisels it to Jaden Davey. On half forward. He'll go short for Caddy. Boyd Woodcock will stand the mark. Caddy asking for someone to present in the pocket. went through the fingertips of Shield. Manteet. And a fortuitous kick. And Maxi Peskett takes the mark. Boyd Woodcock, who was just standing on the mark, has vacant land in front of him to start the third term. Brilliant kick for Banks Smith, who will swing around on the right foot, put it in the Crossley direction. In a one-on-one is Braden, foot's at the front. Couldn't reel it in, Will Hoare is there. Shannon went back to Crossley. The ruckman broke the tackle. Brilliant smother by Roberts. Hoare slipping over, managed to shovel a handball the way of his teammate, who was wrapped up straight away as Gemma Bastiani rejoins me for this second half.
Yeah, the gremlin was me just there. I turned you off.
Unbelievable,
Sorry
Gem.
about that.
Unbelievable.
Having a bit of a tricky technological day, but we're all good. That transition down the field off the back of just neat skill was really impressive from Southport.
Jaden Davey gets the spiral out of the danger zone, but it's coming back. Peskett takes the mark on 50. Too far out to score. He'll look to swing it to half forward. Mickey Manteet decides to sink the slipper into it, and it's just missing to the near side. Minor score to start this.
The right option again. Zach Foote and Willis were both sitting on their own inside 50, but just wanting to go for that kick on your own, it's disappointing because they had such great chemistry as a unit in that first term, and it seems to have fallen away a bit.
The ball's been turned over. And Jepson has got it. He might even try to back his chances in here.
It definitely looks like what he's doing.
Yeah, he had a good look around and then decided there was nothing better than him having a shot at goal.
Nate Caddy kicked one from further out earlier, so...
He did. So Jepson, Coburg's best and fairest winner of 2023, is missing to the near side now. And a minor score.
Yeah, Southport have done a bit of recruiting out of Victoria, haven't they?
They have over the off-season. Benny Jepson, one of those. We mentioned Brock Aston in that first half making his debut from Queensland. There's a couple of others on the list as well.
Even in the women's they did similarly. Jasmine Kawa from Williamstown went up there. I know that they've got a fantastic S&C coach at their women's side in the Quaffle W in Mia Dockery, who is a fantastic addition to that unit as well. So some good things happening at Southport.
It's a great place to be. No doubt about that. Haitley got it to Campbell Gray on the slide. Trying to go back into the corridor, and Foley had a little bit of work to do, but didn't seem too troubled by it. And now Eckersley, so his captain in O'Neill, didn't go far enough. Thrown into the ground by Banks Smith. No prior opportunity. As Gem reaches for the Sunnies here at the Hangar.
Joey, can I give you a quick update on the VFLW as it stands?
Yes, please.
Box Hill up by 47 in the final quarter against North Melbourne, 74-27. Two other games have started, both in New South Wales. The Giants lead the Cats 21-0, and Sydney leads Casey 12-0.
So Archie Roberts gets the free kick. There's all the around the ground scores. Of course, later on, after this game, the Bombers will take on the Southern Saints in the Rebel VFLW. So that's still to come for us. That kick no good at all. Woodcock didn't take the mark. He's on his hands and knees, wrapped up by Jackson Haitley, right beneath us, and the umpire will ask for the ball again. Perfect day for footy.
Yeah, the clouds have cleared significantly. It looked quite dark earlier, but got lots of blue sky above us now.
Bowman sends it down the line. Bounce awkwardly for Crossley. Willis is there, as is McKay. Thrown into the ground by Lake. Braden had a second go at it. The big ruckman really fashioned any form of disposal as Eckersley tried to go over his head, and only as far as Woodcock, who checks the kick. It's nicely well weighted for Mackenzie Willis. Goes in the pocket for Lake. Oh, Lewis Hayes. That was Dustin Fletcher-esque. Inspector Gadget-style arms.
He does move in a similar way, doesn't he? But we've got to give some credit to this Essendon defence today, Joey. The number of times it's looked like Southport has been out inside their forward 50 to a perfect lead-up target who's standing on their own, only for that Bombers defence to come across it and get that spoil in. It's been brilliant to watch.
So might we have a secondary stoppage here inside the Southport area. Might get you, Jem, to rattle off a couple of those stark numbers when it comes to the third term for Essendon. It's been a quarter with a lot of question marks around it for Blake Carasella and his team. A free kick has been found here, so it's going the way of Jacob Heron, the speedster, as he lines up for goal. Jem, what do you got on third terms for Essendon?
Yeah, so in third quarters this year, the Bombers have conceded 20 goals, 12, 132 points, and only kicked 21 points themselves, 111 points deficit.
As Heron, from almost the pain of 50, almost had it working back too, just missing. So 3 behinds this term, all the way of Southport. They haven't really gone forward, the Bombers, so far. Margin is 7 points.
Yeah, so across second halves altogether, they're going at a 215-point deficit. They're just being blown out of the water late in games, and they're very susceptible to runs of momentum. So against Brisbane in round 1,
Bulls search forward again. Haitley, foot, got boot to ball. Wiedemann tracking it back. So against Brisbane, Jem, in round 1, you were saying?
They conceded 10 of 12 goals against Brisbane from the third quarter.
And we were here for that?
We were, and then they conceded 8 consecutive goals to Sandringham from the third quarter in round 2, and then the Bulldogs kicked 11 of the last 12 goals in the game in round 3. So it is that momentum shift that they're not able to contend with. And even when they do have control, we've talked about it a little bit already, but even when they do have control, they're not a damaging attacking side right now. Well, that's a great mark.
It was from Vicentini. He was met by Reece Clark and took it nicely. So he draws the man on the mark by getting it to Roberts, who wants the left foot, then ran himself into trouble. Handball back to Foley in the dump kick. Sexton dropped what he probably should have taken. Caddy made a contest of things. The snap into goal is going through. Fist in the air. And a brilliant goal is kicked from the Bombers. And it is off the boot of a Moorhead. Terrific stuff.
Joey, that was seriously good stuff from, I think it was Campbell Gray in the goal square, to actually just create the space for it to bounce through. All he needed to do was just body his opponent away from the footy that little bit without giving away the free kick to allow it to go through for a goal. That's the connection we're talking about. It doesn't always necessarily mean in terms of winning the footy and sharing it with your teammate. It's about capitalising on those sorts of opportunities too. That was really, really good stuff from Campbell Gray.
We have talked about this throughout the first half. When it looks a little bit chaotic, the Bombers look like the sharper team, Jammers.
Yeah.
When it's in the air and being controlled, it's more on Southport's terms. A little bit of chaos seems to work for the red and black. So they kick the first goal of the second half after Southport were pressing. And a clearance going the way of Essendon from the captain in O'Neill. The inside-out spiral, Vicentini in a one-on-one. Makes a contest of things with Clark. It's on the ground and Jepson just shoveled the handball to space. Nick Williams bounced up for him. Into the outer side of the ground for Hall. He takes the mark. Jem reckons it's Tom de Koning, the clone.
Don't you think?
Went for Shannon, dropped the mark. I'll get back to you on that. I thought Darcy Moore. That's purely because of the black and white jumper. Sweeping backwards to McKay, to Foley. Here's the latest goal kicker in the centre circles, Moorhead. To O'Neill on the broadcast side. Oh, he slipped over, but he did enough to get it back into his hands. Onto the 50 for Molan. Boot to ball. Clark came smashing through. Foley got him high. Will the advantage be paid at will? Woodcock has got Dixon beyond his measure. So he went in short for Willis. He'll set this up for Crossley. Didn't really advantage the big man, who had to throw the one arm out. Wiedemann was right on his backside. Ball's on the deck along with both of those men. Hall's down there, camped on top of it. The umpire will ask for it.
I'm sure Braden Crosley is a much kinder person than I, but if I was him, I'd be so frustrated with the way that the ball is coming into me. He's doing all the work inside that 50. He got space. He pointed to where he wanted the footy. It's been happening all day, and instead of coming where he's pointing to, where he's able to take advantage, they're putting it on his head, or they're putting it to the advantage of his direct opponent. He's just not being given the opportunity to really take control of the game.
So it was a free kick in the end to Aidan Hall. Might have been no attempt to get rid of the Sharon. He'll take his best effort. Late inclusion and a brilliant goal to go with it now. Fist in the air from Aidan Hall. Every player gets to him. The young man has produced the goods, and the margin gets back to 7 points.
Now, Joey,
speak to me.
If you're Southport right now, knowing what you do about Essendon and the way that they are susceptible to momentum shifts and allowing opposition teams to get that momentum run, you're saying this next 5 minutes is crucial. If they can take that momentum and actually kick a couple of goals off the back of it, probably breaks the back of Essendon, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly leads them with questions going into the last quarter around their own mental state and what's been happening in the first month of this season. And I dare say, if they're thereabouts again in the final term, Southport, they've already had a couple of close encounters themselves and wishing they'd go the other way. Great lessons for both of these teams today. Crossley's moved into the middle of the ground. Nick Bryan has wrapped him up. Big Braden will go again. Handlebar Mo looking magnificent here at the Hangar as he gets the clearance to Hall. The boy from South Fremantle to centre half forward, Nyko, the 23rd man for the Dons. Takes it from Molan, who's in a one-on-one on the outer side of the ground with Clark. Clark wins the day, sweeps the handball. And they work this out okay. McGuinness, so he's met by 3 Bombers. Didn't panic. Sexton. Out wide for Mantee. Stood tall underneath the high ball. Gets to Woodcock. Thought about giving it to Crossley and then decided against it. Sends it to half forward, and Dixon was intercepted by Peskett, his own teammate. Aston's handball was stolen, and then the Sharks will steal it back. Nyko's on the ground. He's having a crack at it. Peskett, Dixon. Another one out the back for Woodcock. Inside out sort of ball, not good. And the Bombers with Bryan go to centre half back for Vicentini to Moorhead. They want to move the footy quickly. Davey fisted away by Sexton. Back to Woodcock. Another one to Mantee. Southport are pinging the Sharon around, and Crossley, the big man, goes over his mark to the top of the square for Dixon, who flew from the back. Luau did the roving at the front. Wiedemann can clear with Roberts. Oh, no good at all, that kick. That might be insufficient intent, despite it coming off the wrong side of the boots. It will be. And another search forward for Southport. It'll come from Keegan Gray. Called to play on as he goes inside 50 with the kick. Dixon. Wiedemann from the back brought it to ground. Bryan gave it to Sam, to Tom Thomas. And Archie Roberts again. This time he chooses the handball instead of kick. Put his teammate into trouble. He'll get it back again. On the non-preferred, it goes up and down the chimney. Easy pickings for Benny Jepson.
Got to calm things down a little bit here, Southport, I think. They're panicking themselves into some skill errors that just they don't need to allow into their game. That's a great kick, though.
It is. It opens up the ground as Crossley sinks the slipper into it to the top of the square. Ball hits the deck. Woodcock does the roving. Open goal square. Is it bending the right way? It's not. And another behind.
But that was a much better forward 50 entry. And Crossley, the one who was on the receiving end of some poor kicks, he's now come up the field a bit, as you mentioned, playing in the ruck, and he can be that link forward. It was a much better kick. Mark obviously wasn't taken, but it looks so much more dangerous when they're putting it into that pocket of space rather than to a contest.
And just opening up the ground a little bit too, so it's not going straight to the stack of players in the 50. Tom Thomas has got it from Bryan. There's a chance to see what the Bombers can do with possession in hand. Picks out his teammate in Ricky Monty. The two of them played together at Golden Square. Now playing together in the red and black. Had a good first month too here at the Hangar, those two individually. The kick though has been turned over. Reece Clark, the Victorian who's made the move up to Southport. Backtracks to Maxi Spencer. Ooh, dangerous kick, it's got to be good. And it is in the end. Sexton, all in his lonesome, in front of Davey. Brilliant, well-weighted kick for Shannon, who sweeps it further to Banks Smith. Inside 50, Dixon on the stretch. Just one kick, Gem, is all it takes to open up the whole ground. And now Hugh Dixon on the other side of the ground, but it'll open up for the left footer to kick his second.
Southport has looked most dangerous when Dixon is involved in that forward 50 play. So he's the one that is leading in a way that demands it be kicked to him. He's also been really good at setting up his teammates as well.
So to put the Sharks back in front, Hugh Dixon kicked a goal in the first half. On its way, umpire had a look as it just went to the near side, and another behind, Gem. They are genuinely peppering. He's kicked 1 goal 3 now, as our man Dicko. They move to 4 goals 8, and the margin is a solitary kick now. Gray went up with the one juke, comfortable at the end, stuck into his mitt. Steps off his mark and he's called to play on. Caddy in a one-on-one with McGuinness. Went through all hands. Locked up is Molan. The umpire will ask for it again.
Looks like Alwyn Davey on the bench just watching his brother play.
He played last night with the Bombers. Peter Wright also down there. We spoke about him in the first half. Woodcock just sends it down the line. It's a floating sort of style kick. Nyko was clean. Was he taken high by Lake? The umpire had a look at it, crossed the arms and asked for it back.
We should mention as well, Joey, that Alex Molan is making his debut for the Bombers ahead of his sister, who is playing in the game later on today, Sophie Molan, former Richmond AFLW player, but now a key part of Essendon's VFLW side. So nice little family situation here. I'm sure Alex will hang out to watch Sophie play, who's been watching on from the boundary already this morning.
There's a lot of Molans coming out of the Hangar in the pre-game.
We were wondering, I was speaking to Ari, who are all these kids? It's just a bunch of teen boys by the looks of it, but they're all Alex's mates, we've now come to understand.
As Bowman sends it inside 50, Lake at the right spot for a small forward. He was thrown into the ground though. And Essendon stopped the rappel forward with Tom Thomas. Lewis Hayes a little bit slow to get to his feet after that, Gem. But looks to be okay.
He's been brilliant today, Lewis Hayes. He and Nick Bryan, I think, have been underrated parts of this Essendon side this year. One at each end of the ground right now. While Matt McGuinness is still making life difficult for Nate Caddy. Nate Caddy's not necessarily appreciating it.
Certainly up to the task, though, is Nate.
Ball's coming his way now, though.
Here he is, right on cue. Flies up, makes a contest, ball hits the ground. Pescott getting it to Bowman. This kick's got a hit. Southport want to be a chance, and Hayes, Inspector Gadget, take 2 to McKay, to Roberts, who nearly smashed into Lewis Hayes, and decided to turn around, do a 180 and send it down the line of the left foot. Wanganeen didn't take the mark. Davey, his handball missed, Caddy. McGuinness stole it. And it's Jepson to Aston. Left foot down the line. Woodcock. Boyd somehow brought that mark down.
Just read it really, really well.
Nearly had the wind taken out of him too, and not even looking for a teammate is Boyd, so he might be confident from here. He'll run around, give it the big wind up from the 50, into goal, hits the stick. Jeez, he was confident in his ability, was Boyd Woodcock.
Well, he had every right to be confident, I think. He's just hit the post on the inside, but they need to start dobbing some of these.
5-8 to 4-9. Two of the more inaccurate teams of the competition to start this season, Gem. Southport last week, 2 goals 12 after half-time against Williamstown.
Yeah, that's no good.
And the week before, 2 goals, 6 against Werribee. So far today.
It's just one of those things that you look back on. It's like, it's such a simple thing that if we got right, we'd be in a much better position now. And it's quite disheartening because
Archie Roberts has kicked it into the hanger.
that's the second one he's struggled with coming up that flank there. But it's one that you look back on, you're like, we did a lot right. We just didn't get it right where it counted. And it can really shatter some confidence, I think.
So into the pocket. Hayes didn't take the mark. O'Neill's at the front of the contest, thrown into the ground. Southport are going to ask the question. They're going to be rewarded. And it's Maxi Pescud to take the free kick. Now he'll have a crack at seeing if his radar is on. But you're right, Jen. This must be a goal now.
There's a massive amount of space in that forward pocket there that he's got a teammate sitting alone in that he's ignored.
So Pescud, give it the big wind up.
No.
He'll use the breeze to his advantage. And as Gemma Bastiani called while it was in the air, another behind.
He's just finding that extra kick, and I'm making a maybe what will seem like a tenuous link here, Joey, so bear with me.
Okay.
Melbourne in the AFLW last season, across the first 5 games, they were like scoring in at an unprecedented scale for the competition. It was incredible. And what they were doing was always looking for that better option in front of goal. They were always trying to find that corridor mark or that mark that's closer to goal that's a higher percentage kick. And as a result, they were scoring teams just off the park, and it all came with patience. And it's not something I think we've seen today, is trying to find a teammate in a better position to really have a good crack at scoring consistently. There's a lot of guys that are willing to take that shot from 50 when maybe they shouldn't. And it's really let, I think, both teams down in that respect.
Yeah, we've seen Dixon, Jepson, Woodcock, and now Pescud from almost the paint of 50 have those shots at goal that you're talking about. And talking to a few people at Southport over the last few days, it almost feels like maybe a little bit of panic sets in the second half, especially against Werribee when it was a close game. Last week against Williamstown, they went into three-quarter time 45 points down through caution to the wind, but even then the entries were just rushed, just quick kicks in, just more hoping that someone will mark it, someone will get it through the big sticks.
And as much of it is on the person who has the footy 50 metres out and them deciding whether they're going to hit up a teammate or not, pardon me, it's also about the teammates that are inside 50 actually leading for the footy. So it's a combination of both things. You probably have the case where some players just feel like, I'm going to take this team on my back now and try to be that person. It's about picking your moments, isn't it? Because if they kick it, they're the champion, aren't they?
They are. As they go back inside 50, Campbell Gray looks like he's moved back to the back line. Dixon slipped over. Wanted Zach Foote, missed him. Here's Gray for the Bombers to Haitley. Sweeps the handball backwards. Foley's standing behind Wiedemann. Give to Eckersley. It'll be a downfield free kick. Foley was disposed of after he got rid of the ball.
It's the first one of this quarter, Joey.
A free kick?
It's the first off-the-ball free kick.
Ah, right.
Of the quarter, and we're 23 minutes in, so they've done well. That sounded very condescending, didn't it? They've had so many in the first half.
We talked about the ill discipline of Southport here. If you're just tuning in, you're not talking about the umpires have done well to find one.
No.
We're talking about Southport's ill discipline and even Essendon to an extent.
Both sides.
So they've obviously been asked by both coaches, just tying up the screws on that one, lads. Particularly in the first half, with Nate Caddy lining up for goal and Jaden Davey giving one away.
It's just wasteful, isn't it?
Well, it's stuff that is so within your control that it's almost unforgivable to the senior coaching staff. Ball thrown back in. There's been a whistle off the ball from a non-officiating umpire, going the way of Brian in that ruck contest. Shield on the stretch, missed the mark. Keegan Gray, quite happy to see it over the line.
We've been singing Hayes' praises. Gee, I need to be better at putting words together, don't I? What do you think it'll take for him to get into the senior side, Joey?
Maybe a couple more kilos, in all seriousness.
Yep.
I feel like he might be just a little bit slight, which is the worry coming up against when you're in the AFL, those bigger, bodied forwards. But I feel like he's got all the right attributes. And in saying that, and I know we've mentioned his sort of similarities with Dustin Fletcher, who was a beanstalk and made 20-something year career into 400 games without putting on a kilo, I reckon. So maybe that is the Lewis Hayes mould. And at the same time, I know that the Bombers, well, at the moment, they're standing up. 4 wins, 2 losses to start season 2024 at the AFL.
And I think today he's been their most consistent performer across the 3 quarters so far.
Well, he's going to get another look at it here as the ball comes inside 50. Crossley, though, too big, too strong, too tall, too good on Sam Wiedemann on that occasion.
This is the first shot Crossley's had, first chance he's had, really. Again, it came in on his head, but he was actually able to compete because he was playing as the player in front. So this is arguably the most important kick for Southport in this game.
Well, this will put them in front. They trail by 3 points to move 3 points ahead, nearing three-quarter time. The big ruckman has moved forward, and he splits the middle, and then a big come on to go with it. He's the barometer of this team, is Braden Crossley. He was the barometer of the Big V a couple of weeks ago, Jem. And he's kicking an all-important goal on this occasion. A captain's goal, it must be said. 5:11:41 to 5:8:38. We've gone 27 minutes in this third term. And as I look down at the disposals, Jem, Boyd Woodcock has gone past Dylan Shield.
Yes, that happened a little bit earlier in this quarter, Joey, but Braden Crossley, he's coming off a big game last week. He kicked the 3 goals from 10 disposals while also having the 27 hit-outs. I think him coming up into the ruck for a little bit and then going back inside 50 was able to disrupt that Essendon defence a little bit maybe and just change the look. But he obviously played the 10 games for Gold Coast back in 2018 as well, but he's so important to this team, and as you said, a barometer. And that celebration after he kicked that one is a bit of, come on, we can do this.
So back into the centre square, Aston on debut gets the clearance, and there's the siren to end the third term. Well, we're right where Gemma Bastiani said we'd be. Inside a kick.
Melbourne by 50 points. The Giants are leading Geelong by 48 points midway through the second quarter, and Sydney is currently leading Casey 62-8 midway through that second quarter as well out at Blacktown.
Here it's a 3-point go as the Bombers get the first clearance to start the final term. They're well within reaching distance of claiming their first victory of the season. But it's Southport off the halfback flank, taking the clearance. Uncomfortable bounce for McKay. Had the support of Eggersley, who sends it up and down the chimney. Edwards sits underneath the high ball. Was fisted away from him. Campbell Gray. Paris is lurking. Gray wins it. Haitley, sweeping handball to Wanganeen. The ground opens up in front of him to the top of the goal square. It's a 2-on-1. It'll go over the back. And it's not going to get there. Right on the slide. Saving the day is Mickey Manteet. And a minus score for the Bombers.
Joey, can I make one mention about that Sydney VFLW side currently playing?
I guess you can.
Cynthia Hamilton has kicked 3 of Sydney's goals. She's going to make her VFL commentary debut next week.
Is she?
In the GWS North Melbourne game on Friday. So make sure you tune in. No pressure on Cynthia, because I know she's a bit nervous, but she'll be making her debut on the mic. So if you want to hear her skills off the field as well,
yes,
make sure you tune into that game.
I think you should fly up and do it with her, Jem. Just a thought, as this one's locked up inside the centre square. Starting the final term, the Bombers have got the first minus score. Almost a major from Tex Wanganeen. If you were with us in the third term, you'll know that, again, final quarters are not the strong suit of the Dons. The Shield gets the clearance. Inside 50, though. The kick's been intercepted by Maxi Spencer, who draws Vicentini on the mark and then steps around him. Shannon had it spoiled away by Shield. Roberts. Paris. Inside 50 again, the Bombers. This time it works out for Vicentini. He takes the mark. Great result for the Dons. They were able to turn that one over. And Vicentini is on the end of the kick from Paris.
This is the most consistent we've seen of Essendon all year.
No question about that. Been that way since the very first bounce of this game. Vigo Vicentini wearing the number that used to be worn by a goal kicker of this club, Patrick Voss. From right on 50. On its way. Effortless from Vigo. And a grab of the jumper too. Looks sensational, Jem. The Bombers go back in front. And for the first time this season, at this point of a game, they have the lead. 2.5 minutes into the final term. 6:9:45 to 5:11:41.
There's a bit of belief around this Bombers side today. And if you're Southport, you're probably frustrated that they found that against you. But Blake Carousel is standing on the boundary. He's looking up and about as well. And they've got a bit of hope now. So I'd like to see the Bombers take that and shift the narrative, change the fact that they give up a lot of momentum to they're going to take it and use it to get their first win of the season.
Well, every footballer will have just pricked up a touch when you said they've got a bit of hope, because their favourite movie is Shawshank Redemption. Of course, one great line in there is, hope is a dangerous thing, Jem. And if the Bombers have got hope right now, it's danger time for the Sharks.
Wait, Joey, whose favourite movie is Shawshank Redemption?
Every single footballer, when you ask them what their favourite movie is, even the young ones who've never seen it say Shawshank Redemption. It happens without question. You pick up a footy record and it's in every player profile. Here we go again with Roberts at centre half forward. It's a brilliant movie, Jem. But every single footballer seems to name that one. Here's Nick Williams, bringing it to the broadcast side of the ground. It just goes to space. Vacant land. It's Banks, Smith and Hayes. They both see it over the line in front of the Essendon interchange bench. Do you agree?
Do I agree?
Tell me that you've spoken to a footballer who has a different favourite movie than Shawshank Redemption.
I don't know that it's a question I ever ask.
Well, you should start asking it. You'll be surprised at how many times it comes up.
I will say, I did ask an AFLW player that I was interviewing last week what the first record she ever bought was, and she looked at me like I was crazy and said, I've never bought a record.
That's just silly.
Because she's 18 and has lived in a world where streaming has been the only thing, so that was a reality check for me.
The first thing she would have brought was an iPod Shuffle 18 years ago. That would have been the...
As a newborn?
The technology. Well, her parents would have brought her one, or
as
someone.
A newborn?
Yeah, one of those baby shower gifts. Here's Archie Roberts, back to the footy. Spiral down the line. Vicentini, he's inspired, this young man. He's kicked a couple of goals. He's put him back in front. Early in this final term, he takes the mark. Send it down the line. He'll hope for Caddy to come from 4 deep. He'll have a crack at it, will Nate? Front of the contest at Southport, a haphazard wayward kick. Now, is that insufficient intent?
Has to be.
It is. Another search forward for the Bombers and Cam Nyko. You're just waiting for the Sherrer to get out behind the trees. Now, we saw him in the first half, Jen. Lethal left foot for Cam. Called to just get it in. So he goes into the pocket. In the end, it's just too wide for Davey. Out of bounds on the full, but I don't mind that option.
No, it was the right idea, because what had actually happened was Vicentini had actually led up at the footy earlier, which had created this massive amount of space behind him that was open for Jaden Davey to work into. The kick just wasn't executed the way it needed to be. It was the right choice.
To Jepson, to Hall, to Sexton. That's a dangerous ball for Will to stand underneath. Hayes has come a long way up the ground with those Inspector Gadget arms. Locks up the ball.
Are we also maybe seeing a little bit more freedom in the way Hayes is playing, because he's got Wiedemann sitting deep and can trust that at least the deepest forward is going to be covered?
Feels that way. It certainly does. Inside 50 from Brian to Caddy. Now, won't this set alight the highlights reel if he kicks this goal, Nate Caddy? Had a crack from a similar spot in the second term in front of the Molan family, who were all inside the hangar before. Here's Caddy on its way near side.
So he went for the punt, drop punt. I nearly said the punt road then. He went for the drop punt when he took that shot in the second quarter, and it came across the face. And that one there, he decided to bend it through, but it just bent in too narrow.
Ball's been turned over again. Southport having a real time for trying to get it out of here. Moorhead into the pocket for Gray. Flew up in the air with Sexton. Over the line it goes. I guess the other part, Jen, when we're talking about Lewis Hayes coming so far up the ground, is Southport cannot get it out of this forward 50 arc of the Bombers right now.
No, and this is what happened in the first quarter, but with the teams reversed. Southport was absolutely trapping it in that end of the ground. but not quite capitalising on the scoreboard.
Whistle on play. There's a few whistles on play, and it's a free kick, I think, going the way of Southport off the ball.
Correct.
So Shannon, who kicked the opening goal in the first 12 seconds of the game, sends it to the outer side wing. Paul reels it in. His handball's been intercepted by Aston. Now's a chance for Willis to have a bounce, to set it up for Banks Smith. It wasn't a great kick. Foot to Dixon. Got the arms free on Molan. Went back to Aston. On the left foot into the pocket. It's a 2-on-1. Nyko did really well to not give away the free kick. Bring it to ground, and Foley got it now to Hayes. Haitley may have run himself into trouble. He had the support of his captain in O'Neill. The advantage is going to be paid from the free kick. And Tom Thomas, half-back flank, thinking about opening up the ground. Just outside of the shot, Haitley's having some words with his opponent. The jumper tugging going on. Tom Thomas gets the overlap run going. The Bombers go inside 50. Caddy's in the contest. Vicentini, it rolled past him. The big man, he's charging back after it. Paddles in front of himself. Now he's got the support of Gray. From the pocket! Across the face. Tex Wanganeen tried to get a boot to it.
It was nearly like
Kung Fu style.
It was nearly like a cross in the round ball football game. The way that Tex Wanganeen tried to attack that there.
Would have been a wonderful goal. Unfortunately, though, it's out of bounds, but it's probably a better result than a behind, because another stoppage will follow, and Brian will ruck with Bowman. The ball will hit the ground. Banks Smith, unfortunately for the Bomber fans, was taken high. In fact, it's Will Sexton, and he'll get the free kick. How will they navigate their way out of this defensive 50 arc? Jacob Heron. This time the speedster can't run. He's got to go over the man on the mark. And he just dumps it to the outer side of the ground. Crossley's come a long way forward. He didn't take the mark. Moorhead to O'Neill to Foley. All of that by hand. Inside 50 for the Bombers, and Vicentini again. Got the separation on Williams that he wanted. And he's becoming inspired in this final term, Jem.
Not only is he becoming inspired, his teammates are acknowledging the hard work in leading that he's been doing all game and hitting him up. So it's the connection piece. I feel like a broken record, but once that chemistry between the lines is actually solidified, they look really, really dangerous.
So he's already kicked a goal in this final term, 2 for the game, this for 3, and to extend the lead for the Bombers. The umpire doesn't move. Vigo's bringing his teammates along for the ride. He's got 3, and they push to an 11-point lead, 7-10-52 to 5-11-41.
Joey, question for you.
Mm-hmm.
If Essendon get up, which it's looking like it's going to be that way, is Vigo your weekend hero?
Without having seen a hell of a lot of the other games going on, I'd have to almost say yes. Almost. Lewis Hayes has a chance.
How can people find out if that's what you end up choosing?
I'll tell you about it on State of Play on Tuesday mornings at 7:30. You can either go look for it like you have to, or you can just subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TikTok, Google Podcasts, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Or you can waste your time like Jem Bastiani does and goes to vfl.com.au and has to set an alarm at 7:30 on a Tuesday.
I think going to vfl.com.au is not a waste of time.
No. It's not a waste of time for most people, but because you should subscribe, you waste your time waiting for 7:30 on a Tuesday. Here's Boyd Woodcock going inside 50. Hayes, maybe the weekend hero, takes the mark. Another one, Inspector Gadget. He goes across the ground to Foley. And Foley to the outer side of the ground for Thomas. Maybe Tom Thomas could be my weekend hero with those green wheels. Got the best name in the VFL. There's Tom. Thumps it down the line. Over the back is Dave. If it sits, he might be off to the races. Frustration as he throws it back behind.
I'm not happy about that because he was out. There was nothing ahead of him. And he's, you'd say, the fastest man on that field right now.
Especially going forward to the football. I mentioned this last week with Pete Mercado. Footballers go so much quicker running to goal than they do going the other way. I don't know where they find those extra Ks in the legs, but they just do. Aston goes backwards. trying to break through the tackle. He'll get it back and give it to Woodcock. It was met by Molan. Got boot to ball. Bryan, the big arm stretched out and stole the Sharon away from Crossley. The umpire will ask for it again.
Southport just needs to find that space that they were afforded in that first half. Get the ball to the open side, possess the footy a little bit, because they're playing into Essendon's hands by trying to play this quick handball, rushed, chaotic style of play. So this free kick here is a chance to just go into that mode a little bit.
Well, they'll get the free kick from Shannon. He'll go backwards to Jepson. They might be trying to open up the ground here, the Sharks. Williams at centre-half back. Another one to McGuinness, who's been playing on caddy all afternoon. A nice battle and sideshow to this whole contest, those two, as it rolls over the line at the Essendon interchange gates. These two sides, Jem, their last 3 encounters prior to today have all been decided by 8 points or less. So I'm not surprised that we have got a low-scoring tight affair between these two.
You love a close game, don't you?
Oh, everyone loves a close game, better than a blowout, that's for sure.
Unless it's your team that's winning.
Well, I'm very used to my team winning close games, apart from a prelim final in 2022, which is why you're bringing this up. You wanted me to say that, didn't you?
Truly wasn't.
Here's Cannon.
We'll go with it.
Here's Shannon. He lost the footy. Tomer was met by Aston, managed to get a boot to it. Now, Willis is asking the question about insufficient intent. Be a tough man to pay that one as it rolls over the line. Essendon fans they've had 24 hours of close encounters after last night, beating the Crows only just.
Painful close encounter last week for their VFLW side, going down by 2 points. So
a comfortable watch a couple of weeks ago against the Bulldogs. In fact, last Friday night, wasn't it? The AFL side, that is.
Yes.
Against the Dogs. And speaking of their VFLW side, they've already had another draw this year. At least they get one a year, the Bombers. Don't they? At an absolute minimum in the VFLW.
Yes, that one was against Williamstown, but they've shown such good patches of games. They just haven't had the polish to complete it. So we'll see what happens today against the Southern Saints at 2:30 this afternoon.
Yeah, straight after this contest, so keep it locked on VFL.com.au. Nyko sends it down the line. Strong. Over the top was Maxie Spencer. We'll have it thrown in right at the interchange gates.
So as it stands, Vicentini is not on the field that I can see.
No, he's just sitting beneath us.
Yeah, so
with Bryan and Haitley. Sorry,
if you're Blake Carousella, you probably want to get him on because he's the one that's been lifting the side. He's the one that's really been opening up that defence that Southport has been so locked on this game.
And as we look at the Southport bench, Braden Crossley is sitting there with Bowman and Campbell Gray doing the ruck work for both of these sides. Just wonder whether they throw caution to the wind here, Southport, and put the number 1 ruckman in the game on, although that one's beautifully one down. And here's the speedster in Heron going inside 50. Dixon's in the box seat. He couldn't reel it in with the one juke. He's got the support on the ground. It's with Lake. He steadies, sizes up the goal and misses. Another behind in this second term for the Sharks.
Dixon did such a fantastic job. I know that he didn't take the mark, but to bring it in front of him rather than behind him was all Essendon. And he was able to get it into the hands of a teammate. Just that polish at the end, lacking.
That was their first score of the final term. They're going to get a chance to have another crack at it. Lake went up with Luau, hits the deck. Nyko showed some brashness there in running away and then thumping it down the line. Tex Wanganeen took the bullet. Brilliant mark on the chest. He's got the support of Ricky Monty in short, who drew an opponent to him, and Paris now got some space to go. O'Neill, who's composed, the captain, showing some maturity. Nyko's pointing at the goals. I wonder if the skipper goes back here and not puts the game beyond doubt for the Sharks, but certainly starts to dig the first nail into the coffin of this contest, Jem, at the 17-minute mark of the final term.
He does look confident, but you'd want him to slot this given he didn't even consider passing off.
Well, it'll take his very best effort, Xavier O'Neill. All eyes are on the skipper.
No.
Doesn't hit it at all well. in the end off hands, but it's out of bounds on the full before that. So
just feels again like a waste. They had options inside 50. Nate Caddy was one out, and we know how competitive he's been in the air. To not choose to create a higher percentage opportunity, you do question.
So here's Edwards. A couple of options in mind, then just put it to space. Banks Smith's the speedster. Roberts is closing. The momentum is with the number 24, but he might be run down. Oh, just got it away in time. Jepson to Lake. Took the mark in front of Eckersley. The two premiership teammates, now opponents. He'll sweep it to Jepson. He'll step around McKay. Check the kick into the pocket. It's got to be well weighted. Mantine had to go back. 2 bites of the cherry, didn't take the mark on Hall. Tom Thomas keeps it in. He's got the support of Roberts. And the Bombers are comfortable in clearing it from defence, but it's coming back. McGuinness marks all on his lonesome. And a 50 against Davey will bring McGuinness forward. Davey blocked.
Surely that's
McGuinness is just being told, scream, go forward, son. And Matt McGuinness, who hasn't kicked a goal this year, been playing on Nate Caddy. He'll take a good kick. And it will bring the margin to within 4 points. Nearing the 20-minute mark of the final term. They've kicked 2 goals, 8 in this second half. McGuinness. A steady approach. Crosses 50. Starts to get the strut up. The left foot into goal is missing. Big build-up. One behind.
It's a massive, massive let-off for the Bombers, who, to be fair, Joey, probably should have had another 50 paid against them, because Jaden Davey decided to body check McGuinness when he was walking in. You're not allowed to block someone as they are walking to their new mark after 50 has been paid. So a massive let-off.
To rub even more salt into the wounds, Nate Caddy's got the ball, and he picked out Molan, the boy on debut. Go back inboard to Foley if he wants, then decides now to send it down the line and get some distance on the kick. And there's McGuinness, back in his natural habitat. Taking the intercept mark, a little bit of cramp. He's up now. Almost got to go for broke here. I know it's only 10 points, but they haven't really looked like scoring at all, the Sharks.
Oh.
Spencer to Heron, who just runs around Gray. Bowman blocks, so it allows Spencer to keep running. Willis wants to go back inboard, stepped around Molan. Caddy was closing, gave to Sexton. The well-weighted kick is there for Matt Shannon. We know that left boot is a thumping kick. Goes for Hugh Dixon and gets him. Now will Huey back himself in? He's got Woodcock in the goal square screaming. Dixon will run around. He'll go into the pocket. 2-on-1 in the goal square. It's off hands and it's through for a minus score. They're closing Gemma Bastiani 1 point at a time.
It's finding that ability to set up teammates in good positions. Talked about it a lot. There were so many options there. Going to the goal square where it can very easily be spoiled over the line just isn't the choice right now. Coming further out, there were a couple of options, 35 metres out from goal, but all alone that didn't even get considered.
So Luau got it to Wanganeen, who's charging into the 50. Caddy, it bounced off his chest. What will Nate do from the pocket? He'll give it back to Tex, who will snap into goal. That might be your ball game. Brilliant from the young Bombers. The length of the ground. And the Texan stands tall in the number 40 and puts the margin out to 16 points, Gemma Bastiani.
That's exactly what we're talking about, Joey. That transition footy is something we haven't seen Essendon do consistently throughout a game. So that's one big tick for Essendon. But to go from one end of the ground where it's just lacking the right decision-making in that moment of the game, to go to the other end, to go to a one-on-one with representation at ground level to mop up one if the ball isn't won in the air, it's just completely flipped on its head. And if you're Southport, you're absolutely kicking yourself that you haven't been able to make those choices inside 50, whereas the Bombers early on were a little bit messy and I think dysfunctional, we said. They've absolutely cleaned that up. Couple of shifts in the way people are playing. Vincentini obviously got the momentum going their way, but now that movement at the fall of the ball has been fantastic. So
back in the centre square, Brian and Crossley are both back on the ground and doing the ruck work. We are into time on of this final term. 8:10:58, 5:14:44, 23 minutes gone in this final term. A couple of goals to Vicentini, and now Tex Wanganeen is on the board. Jepson got it to the speedster in Heron. Monty closes, managed to get a boot to it. It'll wobble out of bounds right where the 50 meets the boundary.
Yeah, leading disposal winner is Boyd Woodcock with the 29. He's also got the 1 goal and the 5 clearances for the day, while Jackson Haitley is the leading possession getter for Essendon with 28.
So, about to be thrown back in. Crossley from the back, down to Woodcock. He tried to get it to foot and then missed him. Big Brian picked it up, sent it down the line, but the mark taken by McGuinness. Swing on the left foot. Aston sits under it. Just got to go now, the Sharks. Everything's got to be centimetre perfect. And he gets to Banks-Smith, who has to waste no time. Ryan Banks-Smith. Go back and kick the goal. 14 points the margin. 24 minutes have elapsed in the final term. He's kicked just the 1 goal this season. Hasn't troubled the scorers today. Shoots into goal. This one's starting to work back. It won't be a goal. Big pack of players. And Haitley smashes it over the line for another behind.
So Southport have scored 15 behinds for the day. Joey, I'd argue that at least 7 or 8 of those have been rushed because the ball has just dropped short of the goal line and been just punched through.
And what is it now, Jem? Maybe 5 or 6 from 45 to 50 metres out in terms of a shot at goal.
Yeah.
They're shallow entries. And Crossley takes a big mark right beneath us. Inside 50 for Dixon. Almost clunked it. He's earned himself a free kick. A chopping of the arms. It might have been against Campbell Gray. But this has to go through, Jem.
Has to.
He's kicked 1-3 today as Hugh Dixon.
He's been good inside 50, but there's a lot of pressure here.
Into goal. Shoots and scores. So there's still a pulse in the Sharks. 6:15:51, 8:10:58. It's a 7-point ball game, 25 and a half minutes into the final term.
Is this the time for Boyd Woodcock to shine at the centre bounce, get it out of there really quickly, power forward, get it to one-on-ones inside 50?
Oof. It's sort of the moment for it.
And with Braden Crossley sitting in the ruck there.
They've got almost.
And Heron, who's obviously got speed around the footy.
Experience in there with a touch of youth. Brock Aston, who's making his debut, is standing alongside Jackson Haitley. Xavier O'Neill is in there. And Tom Thomer. And it's the 2 power ruckmen, Crossley and Brian. The umpire slams it into the turf. Brian almost got over the top. Here is Boyd Woodcock. The handball's missed, and Paris gives it to his captain in O'Neill. Spiral inside 50, Vicentini direction. It'll bounce uncomfortably for all comers. Sexton was clean. He chisels the ball, and they've got the numbers here in Jesse Joyce. Up the line for Edwards. Luau met him. It bounced off the calf of Joyce. Perfectly for Woodcock. It was run down by Paris. The ball just wobbled its way forward 10 metres to a stacked camp. At centre-half forward, holding the ball. A chance for the Sharks. Maxi Pescud, who screamed to get it in there, who go in the direction of foot. Foley was strong, fisted it over the line for the safety and a restart of play. 27 minutes gone. Listen to the noise from out there, Gemma Bastiani.
Yeah, how Effects Mike does sit on the side of the benches.
Big crowd in at the Hangar too, enjoying Saturday afternoon footy as it's thrown back in. Crossley and Brian. Brian gets the clearance in the direction of the runner. It'll go out of bounds Insufficient intent? Yes, the umpire says. It's Heron. It's a stacked forward 50. They'll need 2 goals if they want to win this game. To the top of the square with a kick. Wiedemann strong. Sammy stands tall. Takes the mark for the Bombers. He'll come to the broadcast side. Luau. Got Roberts on, but just be composed. He'll go back over his mark. He'll be in no hurry. Thumps it as long as he can. Caddy will fly. Misread it in the air. Southport will take the free kick. To centre half forward. Banks Smith. Pescott. He's got Lake on. Campbell will mark. Crossley in the goal square. As is Dixon. Called to play on. Checks the kick. And the mark has been taken. Keegan Gray. The boy from Werribee. Come across to the Sharks. He's wasting no time. It'll take his best effort. From 45. On its way.
Oh.
Off hands, minus score.
Are we on for a draw here, Joey?
We might just be. One behind. 6-16 to 8-10. 6 points the margin. 28 and a half minutes gone in this final term. Called to play on. It's a shocking handball from Wiedemann. It ends up with Crossley, the big man from the pocket. Sets it up to the top of the square. Bombers everywhere. It's fisted off hands. Lake, he charges at the ball. Gray has another crack at it. The mark's been taken by Edwards. He's got to go back. He's got to kick truly. And if he does, he'll level the scores. 29 minutes gone in the final quarter. Edwards. No goals in 2024 just yet. In round 4 of the Smithies VFL. He's got it! These two sides know no other way than playing close games, Gemma Bestiardi.
Is there a more tense moment in football when you don't know how long is left, but you know it's not much time and the scores are even? So each side will be scrappy now. They'll just try to get it out of the midfield into their attacking half, even just to rush it behind. Just any sort of score will do. So expect speed and movement at this centre stoppage.
We also know that sometimes quarters in the Smithies VFL go a while, so we might have a couple of minutes left, but I dare say the way that they're yelling from the bench, there can't be long left. We're all square, 8-10-58, 7-16-58. Crossley and Bryant, the same setup in the middle for Southport.
Spike it out of the ruck. Like, those are the sorts of choices you need to make here.
Shield has moved into the centre as well for the Bombers. Crossley won it down. Shield, clearance. High tackle, free kick. It's going the way of Joyce. You've just got to get it in, son. He'll run around, get on the left foot and thump it as long as he can. Dixon's in the contest. Gray's at the front. Woodcock lurking. Nyko to Luau. Crossley, he palmed it forward. A shot from Edwards is wayward. It's still going to stay in. Edwards going to get his own ball from the pocket. What's he want to do? Left foot to the top of the square. Wiedemann's there as the goalkeeper. He'll paddle it towards the safety of the line. They'll ask the question. We'll have it thrown in. Every single player is forward of the centre apart from Nate Caddy. Listen to the noise.
And McGuinness, they're in a one-on-one deep.
Crossley and Bryant, one down. Jepson had a crack. Gray, it's hit the post. It's the best point he'll ever kick. Keegan Gray has missed. Haitley up the corridor. The Bombers, one last chance for them. Siren! The Sharks have stolen it from the Bombers at the death. From the jaws of defeat, the Southport Sharks will go home winners by 1 point. Heartbreak for the Bombers.